to the Christian Romance Podcast, where we go behind the books with inspiring Christian romance authors, exploring faith, love, and the journey that brings the story to life. I'm your host, Kelly Jo Wilson, and today we're chatting with Hannah Currie. Hannah writes faith-filled stories of hope, heart, and happily ever afters. Best known for her medieval romance series and heartfelt characters, Hannah is passionate about creating fiction that both entertains and reminds readers of God's unchanging love. A lifelong book enthusiast, she knows firsthand the difference a good story can make in a person's life. Her goal as a writer is to make readers laugh, cry, swoon a little, and most importantly, to find hope even in the darkest moments. Hannah lives in sunny Queensland, Australia with her husband and 3 adorable kids, where it's often beautiful one day and perfect the next, except during heat waves. Be sure to stay tuned to the end of the episode so you can hear more about our newest book giveaway for this month. Now, here's my conversation with Hannah. Hi, Hannah. I am so happy to have you on the show today. I cannot wait to hear more and for our listeners to hear more about you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's very exciting to be here. I love chatting to other readers and or writers, so it's been great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I cannot wait to hear more about your beautiful books and especially set in the medieval times. That's very fun. I am very excited to hear about that. But first, why don't you just let our listeners know a little bit more about you, how you got into writing, how, what your journey looked like, how you got started writing these wonderful historical romance novels.
Cool. So unlike most authors, I guess, I never actually wanted to be a writer growing up. I know a lot of people, like, they start in primary school and everything. And I've always been a reader. I've always loved reading. I was the one who won like the reading competitions and all that sort of stuff, which was great. But yeah, no, when I was a teenager, I read this book about writers, and they kind of like in the book, they kind of forgot about their family because they got so caught up in their like fictional worlds. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that would be what I would do. There's no way I could do that. I can't just ignore my family. So nope, not going to be a writer. And then I don't know, life just happened and everything as it does. I've always quite enjoyed writing and that, despite not wanting to be a writer. But then when I was a teenager, so I also really wanted to be a missionary. So I knew from a really young age that God had called me to be a missionary, like just speak to people about his love, most probably overseas. But yeah, and I was super duper excited about that. Like, I couldn't wait to be old enough to be out there in the world and sharing God's love. And that was my goal in life, is to be this missionary. I have a family and just spend my life telling people about how much God loved them. So I went on like short-term mission trips as a teenager and everything like that. And then when I was 18, so just after I'd finished high school, I ended up getting rheumatoid arthritis, so a chronic disease, which pretty much stopped my life for like a year and a half. And all those dreams kind of went out the window. And I thought that was completely over. I'm like, God, why on earth did you call me to this when obviously I can't do it? But yeah, and during that time, I kind of kept going. I got married, I had kids and that. And it was actually when I was pregnant with my first child that my mum just randomly one day came up and said, look, if you're ever going to write a book, now's your time. You're never going to have this much time again. And I'm like, that's a weird thing to say, but okay. She's my mum. I trust her. So, so I actually challenged myself, but well, I've got all these kind of ideas for books that I've kind of started, but I've only ever kind of written the first chapter or something. And then I've moved on because I wasn't going to be a writer. But my mum, who's also shares my love of reading, and she's part of the reason I share so many books, she just challenged me. And I'm like, you know what? I like a challenge. I reckon I could write it. I'll see if I can write a book. So I spent that year, just writing. And in the process of writing this book, which hasn't been published, don't worry, it's none of my published books, I totally fell in love with it. Like, I fell in love with writing stories and these characters. I did get it finished by the end of the year that year, which was pretty cool.
Awesome.
And that, which was really exciting. And I'm like, wow, I can actually write. Like, this is fun.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I wrote that one, and then I wrote a couple of sequels to that one, and then just kept writing and realized that this was now my dream, kind of the new dream God had given me. The idea of, sharing his love through books and through romance books. And that just the idea that like books can go to so many places where I couldn't go. Like
Mm.
I, as one person, would only ever be able to talk to a few people or something like that. Whereas books could share my heart and God's heart and then just spread throughout the world, basically. And it was like God said, no, you thought you had this little dream, but I actually had this big dream for you,
Aw.
which was so exciting. So I'm like, sweet, I'll write a book. So I started trying to be published, and that took 10 years. So yes, 10 years from when I first started trying, sending out proposals and stuff, into my first debut novel was published. But yeah, it was cool. During that time, I just learnt so much and I grew so much and I met so many people and everything. So yeah, while I didn't want to be a writer when I was younger, I think God had always been preparing me for that from, yeah, when I was a 10-year-old sitting in church going, yep, I know I'm going to be a missionary one day, to then, yeah, writing books and seeing them go around the world and hearing from readers around the world say, yeah, this impacted me and God spoke to me through it, is just, it's thrilling. Like, I don't think there's anything
Oh,
like it.
yeah.
So, yeah. So it's kind of how I became a writer, I guess. It kind of fell into it, but was also prepared from that whole idea of God preparing you so many years in advance and that. So I think that answers it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it so much. I think that that's amazing, especially because isn't it so funny how his plan for you can be so different, like you're like
Absolutely.
I just want to read. I want to be a
Yeah.
missionary. I want to read. But what's crazy is like how sometimes illness or different things like that is a barrier can turn out to be a blessing in a
Oh,
way
absolutely.
because
Yeah.
with that, that kind of forced you to stop and to really say like I might not actually be able to do this missionary call now. So now I'm going to have to do it in a different way, right? So he
Yeah.
calls you into writing and now you like you said, your books can reach people all over the world. And hearing from readers, I mean, what are some of the things that readers have sent to you because that is really like such an amazing gift and just blessing in it in and of itself, right? I mean, what it's just unbelievable.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think probably the thing I hear most is that people feel seen. Like, I
Mm,
think, like you said, having an illness or something like that, it's not something I would choose, but it's given me kind of more of an understanding in that first year, in that I went from never having known stress in my entire life to suddenly realizing like what depression was and anxiety and how hard like that. Some of the topics that come up in my books are because of what I've been through. Like, um, I said, like my latest book, Hold Her Close, she struggles with a chronic disease. And while it's not the same one I have, the whole thinking behind it and the faith struggles behind it and all that sort of stuff comes very much from my experience. And to hear people say, like, oh, I feel seen, or I feel like God really encouraged me through this. Um,
mm,
like I said, that one kind of talks about chronic disease. I have another one where she struggles with anxiety and not feeling like she's good enough. She's a princess, so most of my books are princess books. But she's a princess and she's out in the public eye and she's having to be up in front of people and feeling like she has to be perfect while falling apart inside. And like
mm.
she's holding together all these broken pieces and that, and just waiting for someone to realize that she's not who they all think she is. And yeah, to have people come back and say, yeah, that was me. Or I feel like God kind of said, yeah, you can keep going. God knows my name. Like God knows who I am. And I think he hasn't forgotten me kind of is that. But also
Ah,
my prayer for my books has always been that people would find hope through them, that no matter what life looks like, no matter how dark it is, they would realize that this is not the end. Like there's more to their story. So yeah, I think when I hear things like that, that's when I just get really excited, because it's just like God's just absolutely answering that prayer, that they were having a tough day or they were struggling and just didn't feel seen, and then God just came alongside them. And I'm like, it's through a romance book. Like, I know they have like this bad rap in that, but I'm like, there are so many people who pick up a romance book who might never pick up a Bible, or like
yes.
for different reasons. Maybe they're in a family that believes a different religion, maybe they're in something like that, but or maybe that's just a school library or something and they're not game enough to pick up something else, but I mean, it's a romance book. How hard can that be? But
Yeah.
yeah, to then realize that, yeah, God is speaking to them through that and encouraging them right where they are is just, it's so exciting to be a part of. I just can't get past it.
Uh,
So yeah.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful. And I love that you are celebrating that too and like just like celebrating finishing your first book, no matter if it's published or not. Writing a novel is hard.
Oh
I
yeah,
love that you're like,
absolutely.
that was really hard and I
It's
did it in
still
a year
hard.
and I was excited. It's still hard. I know we were just saying like it's
Yeah.
still hard, you
It
know.
doesn't get easier.
Um it doesn't get easier because if you're writing these real characters, right? So even
Mhm.
a princess, okay? So
Oh
I
yeah,
I love the princess. I absolutely love it. I eat it up. I'm like total like Hallmarky all the way. Looking at
absolutely.
the yes, totally. So, but that's a very real thing, right? You would think on the outside this beautiful princess would have it all together, right?
Mhm.
Because she's so pretty, she's a princess, she has money, she has riches, she has fame, that kind of stuff. But inside, she's anxious. She feels like she's not good enough. She's not going to live up to this stuff. And those are real struggles. So, I mean, having characters like that, especially with the illness too, the illness aspect, I feel like that does open your eyes so much. I'm a nurse too. I'm a medical writer now during the
Cool.
day. But yeah, I've been a nurse for years. So that people feel like when they have a chronic illness like you have, they start to feel like they are their diagnosis, right? Like
Mhm.
they're not a person. They lose their identity because it's like constant. It's a
It's
journey
life.
too. Just
Yeah.
like yeah, it's life
Yeah.
exactly, and it's such a journey, and it's like every single doctor's appointment and everything you have to like build up this courage and you have to really go in there and remember like and say a prayer and try to stay positive, and it's really hard. It's just like even with cancer, like with cancer journey, like, even if you are cancer free, there's always that journey that you're still on. There's always that next checkup and things like that, and it can really really get into your head.
Head and your faith and everything. It becomes a
Yes,
lot. Yeah.
it becomes a lot for sure. And then especially if you're having the pain, having pain alongside that you have to manage. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. So
Mhm.
I love that you use that because that's what we connect to. And that's what we want to
Yeah.
root for, characters that are dealing with that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Because it's just real.
That's life. But it's funny how many people don't, like I said, one of the things with this latest book, with writing one about chronic illness, is that she's got endometriosis, basically, but kind of a medieval version of that where they didn't really know much about it, obviously. But yeah, it was very much like I wrote something about how, I guess, what I wish I could tell people about chronic disease, because so many people who deal with it, like you want to say stuff, but you don't know how to say it, or you can't, it's not something you can bring up in random conversation or that. And it's kind of like it's your entire life, but it's also not your entire life. And yeah,
Hmm.
it's been really interesting talking to people and that and discovering more about that. I mean, even that I'm not alone in that. So yeah, it's been really encouraging, I guess.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good. I know. It's so funny that you say that because in daily conversation, we all do it, right? We're all like, how you doing today? Fine. I'm
Oh yeah,
fine. How good? How
total.
are you? Yeah, it's all
I
like
hate that
surface stuff.
question.
But in reality, you want to be like, okay, look, I'm having pain. I have to go to the bathroom. I have been holding it because
Yeah.
my kids are being crazy and I don't want to cook anything tonight. I don't want to think about dinner. I don't,
Mhm.
you
Don't
just
even
want to
ask.
come unraveled. I know. I don't
Yes.
even ask. Oh my God.
I know. It's just that question.
I know. I
Yeah.
know. But we all do it, because sometimes it also depends on trust and stuff. But I can tell you this. You and anybody listening too, I can tell you, if you know a nurse, you can certainly talk to any nurse about any illness whatsoever, and they will. There's somebody that will listen and will get what you're saying. I know I have that with my family, which I think is such a blessing because I love to be the advocate and to be helpful in any kind of way. Even though I'm not at the bedside anymore, I love to be able to help them understand what
Yeah.
they're going through. Like what does this mean? What does this lab mean? What is this? I think it's such a blessing to be there. But talk about, so it is a little bit difficult because if you're writing about current medical issues,
Mhm.
but you're writing in the medieval times. So tell us a little bit about that.
So a lot of it was, I didn't so much, like I never mentioned the what she actually has. A lot of
Okay.
it was kind of more about the emotions attached to it than it was the actual disease, I guess. Um, and kind of imagining what it would be like in that time. Because obviously a lot about endometriosis is like people are understanding more modern day. Like even
Mhm.
just now, people are still only just starting to understand it and accept it as like an actual disease, I guess. So I read through a lot of interviews of people who have it. A number of people listen to podcasts, listen to like their stories. I love listening to people's stories. So yeah, it was going through and reading a lot of stories of how they deal with it every day. Um, Friends who've had it, just talking to them, and just yeah. But I also, obviously, because I don't have it, I didn't want to make it. I didn't want to get it wrong. Like I didn't,
Oh yeah,
because it's
yeah.
such a big thing. I didn't want to get it wrong, and so a lot of it was kind of more not so much actual details, but kind of, as I said, like the emotions behind it, like the physical pain in that, but also how that affects Rose, the main character, how it affects her life, how it affects those around her, how she relates to those around her, because she, I guess, doesn't want them to know. She doesn't want them to realize that she's, because she's the heir. So she's next in line for the crown. So,
Mm.
and yet she's struggling through to hold on for a day. Like she has days where she just can't. She faints and falls off a horse a couple of times. Like it's that, how do I be a queen when I can't even get through a day without falling? And that, so, but her faith is just incredible. Like she has this amazing faith through it. Yeah, but it's like letting people close, letting people in, letting people see her, letting people help her. I would love to say I'm great at that. I am absolutely terrible at that. At letting people in. No, at
Oh,
letting
for
people in,
yourself,
at
you mean?
asking, yeah,
Oh,
at
okay.
asking for help and stuff like that. Like this is very much, I guess I'm on the journey with Rose. Like I'm still in that place. I don't think it'll probably ever be easy for me to admit that I'm in pain and ask for help, because I don't know, it's not a constant thing. Like it's an up and down thing. Like some days might be bad
Mhm.
and some days are great. And I don't want people thinking it's always bad, because there's great stuff. And, but then, yeah, because it's invisible. So I guess I focused a lot more on the invisibility of a disease and how
Mm.
that, like how it affects life when you can't see that someone's in pain, or you can't see that they're struggling. And both from the hero's point of view and from Rose's point of view, but also her family, her parents, and that. So yeah, it was very much her journey through that, to obviously it's a romance, so to finding love, but also to letting people in, letting people help her, letting them see, not everyone, but certain people see what she's really struggling with inside and stuff like that. Um, and knowing that she can trust them even as much as she can trust God sometimes. Like, I don't know, I guess I've always found it easier to trust God because I know He won't let me down, whereas people might. So
Oh yeah.
that whole idea of, look, I trust God, but I don't know if I can trust this guy or this family because they might not understand. But yeah, so it kind of, I guess I focused a lot more on all that than the actual specifics of the disease within that time. Um, but yeah, I did, obviously, I said, I read a lot of stories, I read a lot of like medical things and talked to people, and I guess focus more on the story than the disease, I guess.
Yeah, I think that that's great because that is so how it is, right? I mean, that's like the main thing. I mean, how she, like you said, focusing on the invisibility of it. And that right there, that I can see where readers would be prompted to reach out to you and say, I feel so seen, because that issue with not being able to see, like a broken bone. I've said this so many times, like a broken bone, you can see the cast, right?
Yes.
So you know that
Yep.
there's a problem there. But anything else internally, I usually relate it to mental health issues. I'll
Hmm.
say, like,
Yeah, it's
mental
very much
health
that as
people
well.
can't see. Very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And because of that, there's a stigma usually around it, like, oh, they're fine. Or especially with Christians, why don't you pray through it? You just need more
Yes.
Jesus, which isn't necessarily a lie, but it's not, necessarily untrue, because Jesus certainly is still a miracle worker. However, God also works through wonderful science and wonderful medicines and things like that are put here as a blessing. So yeah, I love that you do that.
I think He also allows us to struggle through some of them sometimes, because
True.
it does. Like, I think, I don't know, I said, I've had people tell me clearly my faith isn't big enough. I'm like, no, I don't think it's that. I think it's just God is working through this. And he's given it to me for a reason. Like, that's why my books have depth in them, because that's something I've worked through, and that's something that's been on my heart for so long, which I wouldn't have had if God had just taken it away straight away. Like, my books would have been very different. They probably still would have been hopefully good, but they would have been very different, and people would have related to them in a different way. So yeah, I think I'm grateful. As much as I hate it some days, I'm really grateful for it, because I know that God is using this. And I think so the first book in this series, this is the final book, Hold Her Close. The first book, Bring Her Home, I didn't want to write it. I started writing it. I'm like, had this great idea for this medieval series and knights and everything. And then God kind of took me aside one day and goes, you know what? You need to give her mental illness, and you need to have her struggling with cutting, and you need to have her doing this. I'm like, yeah, no way. Not happening, God. So we fought over that one for a few months, and I said, absolutely no way. Not doing that one. That's way too deep. I don't want to deal with that. Like, not happening. But no, he told me. It was very vivid, thankfully, because otherwise I wouldn't have believed it. But he said, look, if you write this, I will use it. I will hold you through it, and I will use it to impact people's lives. And I still didn't want to write it. It's probably the hardest book I've ever written, to get inside the head of someone who's struggling that much. But to see God use that, and that's probably one of the ones, like, that's the one that Fidel Youth Christian Company, ballet company, they went and did a stage show of it.
Did
and
they?
Yeah, which was incredible. So
that's amazing.
But yeah, I'll say, to see that and me praying over it so many hours that it would impact teens and it would impact that, to have a whole company of teenagers read this book and put it up on stage and share it with their friends, and that was just like God going, see, told you so. But yeah,
Wow.
so to know that he said, look, if you will write this, I will use it, and that, and yeah, to see him just come through with that. They're not easy topics, and honestly, my next series is going to be back to contemporary and a lot lighter. Because I
You
need a
think
break.
so? You think so? But he's gonna come at you.
I know, right? He totally will. It's going to end up being true. But yeah, just to see his faithfulness through that. Like, you
Yeah,
ask my
for
mum, she'll
sure.
say I've cried through every one of my books, and every time, and said it doesn't get easier. Every time I will get to the same point and just go, what am I thinking? I can't do this. And then she's like, no, you've been here before, remember? Like, every single time. We just got to,
Aw,
like, keep
I
going
love your
through, and
mom.
she's awesome. But
She's
yeah,
amazing.
I say to, like, just keep that God is faithful through every book, and God has been faithful through every book. And if he's asking us to write it, he will send it to the right readers who need to read it. So, but yeah, to see that just come through, and that is really cool, and see him, his faithfulness in that.
That is really cool. And that kind of brokenness is very that's exactly what I feel called to write about as well. Very similar, very like characters struggling with the, past traumas or depressions and things like that. And I'll tell you, it is extremely difficult because when you get into their head
Yeah,
and you start to feel for them, you have this empathy, especially for them. And it's like it's tough. And like you said, you've cried through each book, but most isn't there like a saying, if they're
tears in their author. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Tears in the author, absolutely,
yeah,
because it's very tough. I love that you wrote a book specifically about, you said about cutting,
yeah,
because that I feel like is not really talked about that as much, and that's pretty common. I used to see that a lot in the
mm,
hospital. It's more common than you would think, especially in young people. So I
yeah,
love so much that you were able to work through it, kicking and screaming, that God held you up through it, because it's so important. It's such an amazing um thing to address, and especially having that like ballet, you said it was like a ballet.
yeah. So Fidel Christian Youth Company, yeah, they put it on stage as their yearly production in 2023. That's why I flew to Colorado to see it. It was absolutely incredible, and meet
Oh,
all the dancers and everything. So yeah, no, it was amazing. You can watch it online.
can you? I was just going to
You
ask you that. I'm
can.
so happy that you said that,
You
because I was
can,
just thinking,
yes.
man, I need to find like a YouTube of that. Is it on YouTube?
No, if you go to their website, I can send you that.
Okay,
On their
awesome.
website, it's linked, and you can watch the whole production, and it is absolutely incredible. Like, they just, it's worth.
Wow.
dance is worship. So the whole company is about worship and using dance as worship and
Oh,
using dance to like spread God's love, which is just absolutely incredible. The way they do that, the way they do devotionals together and they grow together as like just teenagers, but they're all, yeah, doing dance. They love dance, but they also love God. And to put that together and see that as their
oh.
mission and as their heart is just absolutely incredible. Like you walk in, you're like, wow, God is here. Like it was just
Oh, absolutely. I get
absolutely
chills
amazing.
even just as you said that. No joke.
Yeah.
I was like getting chills just now. Like, oh my goodness, that is just beautiful. I
Yeah.
bet I can't wait to watch it. I'll put the link in the show notes
Yeah.
too for anyone listening who wants to watch it for sure. Oh, I can't wait. Oh, and that's so neat. That's why you came to Colorado, which I don't know if anybody listening can tell that Hannah is from Queensland, Australia. Am I saying that right? Is it
Yeah.
Queensland?
Queensland. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Queensland. Okay. And I'm so happy because I'm talking to her in the future. She is in the future.
Yep.
But yes, I'm so happy to be talking with you today. I just love it. And I love this ministry that God has put on your heart, but I love how honest you are about it. Like I am telling him I cannot do this. And he's like pulling you in anyway. I can't wait to see, even what you do in your next series, like how you're like, no, I'm
Oh,
going to
me
do
too.
this.
Yes, I have
It's a
many a
journey.
conversation about that. Yeah, God and I have a lot of conversations as I write, and I go, I'm going to do this, and he goes, are you sure about that? But no, I love that. Like, I love that it's such a part of it. And yes, I've gone into every book thinking it was one way and having it go, no, actually, we're going to go this direction. But it's been all part of like what I'm going through at the time as well.
Yep.
It's like God teaches me as much as he's teaching my readers in that. So, but I love that. Like, I love that that's, I'm there while they're going, oh, this spoke to me. I'm like, yeah, me too. Like God's
You're like,
teaching me through it
yes.
as well. Yeah. So it's definitely not that I've learned everything. Believe me, I'm working through it all, same as you all. But yeah.
Oh, that's the best part. And that's what's so interesting. Like how we were just saying before, we were chatting before we started recording that, it's just so interesting about a Christian book or have writing in this genre, especially about like how you said it's a romance, which usually people will just think, hey, even if it's lighthearted, even if it's sweet romance and there is a simple message there, sometimes people will be more inclined to pick that up
Yeah.
versus, like you said, a Bible verse or something like that, maybe a little more intimidating for them. Or they pick up a story and just want to read a story and then don't realize the message that's kind of slapping them in the face, like, hey, calling them for a change in themselves. You never know. And that's the beauty of it so much. I mean, Jesus taught in parables. I talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
And, he just has this beautiful way of just speaking to our heart. And it's so fun to hear too, because the same thing happens to me, but I'm a newer author. So it's fun to hear from you who has like a more seasoned author that you're like, no, it's pretty much the same. Every
Yeah.
time it's a journey.
Every time.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It's so fun. Well, why don't you talk a little bit about, so you were saying about Hold Her Close. So she's dealing with this chronic illness and how you were depicting it. What about the like love story in it? Who's her love interest in the story? Tell us a little bit about him.
Okay, so he's actually each of this, so the Crown of Promise series. So this is the third book in my Promise series. You'd think I could talk by the time. And each of them is actually based on a parable. So speaking of Jesus parables, each of them is based on one of Jesus parables. So the first one, Bring Her Home, is based on the prodigal son, except it's the prodigal daughter. And obviously that's where all her pain and everything comes through, is that she's been through all this and she doesn't think she's good enough to come home. So that was her story. The second one's Guard Her Heart, which is based on the Good Samaritan. So it's kind of like an enemies to lovers kind of, enemy to friends kind of
Yeah.
thing, which was so much fun to write. That one's a bit more lighthearted. It's got like letters and stuff through it. That was a lot of fun. He's more of a
That's
flirt
fun.
and she's a get out of my head. And she's also much a stronger character. So she's more of like a kind of a knight in as a woman kind of thing. But yeah, so Hold Her Close is the third one, and she's the oldest daughter, so she's the heir. And she's been betrothed to someone who, once she finds out at the start of the book that she's actually barren. Whether she is or not, they're not sure. But obviously, because of her bleeding, because of everything she's been through, they think she is. So her betrothed guy ditches her and goes, no, I'm a prince. I'm supposed to be a king. I need kids. I can't be a king without kids. No, sorry. So he actually goes home and kind of talks to his brother, who is actually the heir of that kingdom, Prince Nicholas. And he instantly goes, you idiot, what are you thinking? Like, how could you desert her when she's dealing with all this stuff already? It's all right. This isn't really spoilers. It all happens in like the first chapter or so.
I like Nicholas.
He's great. He's actually a really bookish character. So my first two heroes, the first two books, are like knights and that. So they are a lot stronger in that. Whereas Prince Nicholas is like my bookish guy. So he'd rather be reading than out training, and he'd rather be that. He's very like not so much sensitive, but he cares more about the person than he does about the fight, and he'd rather be like the one organizing it than out there. So when his brother comes home, he's like, what were you thinking? Like, no way. And he immediately sets out to go to see Rose, to go and apologize and say, look, we don't want war over this. Like, obviously this was supposed to happen. This was supposed to be between the two kingdoms, and that. But this one's actually based on the Pearl of Great Price, or the Parable of the Pearl, or there's a few other ways of saying that, where the man goes out and finds a pearl and immediately sells everything he has to buy the field, or that kind of that parable. And so obviously when Nicholas arrives, sees Rose, he falls in love and instantly goes, I want to marry you. And she goes, yeah, what are you thinking? I'm broken. I'm a mess. I'm barren. There's no way you want me. But there's actually, throughout the other books, you'll find there's actually an enemy who's trying to take them down, and he almost kills Rose in that. And so the king jumps and goes, wait, hang on, I'll marry you off and send you to the other kingdom to keep you safe, basically. And so they actually, it's kind of a marriage of convenience kind of thing, despite the fact that Nicholas is already pretty much in love with her. Obviously not in love, but he cares for her and would do anything for her. Even from the start, he can see that she's special and that he knows God wants him to be her husband. So they actually spend part of the journey is them being married, but getting to know each other, getting to, they leave the palace, they leave everything they know and go off to try and protect them with people. So it's part journey, part, marriage of convenience, part him trying to convince her that she's worthy of love. And all based on the parable of the fact that God would just, it's worth, what is, what's your pearl, kind of was the theme throughout that. So what would you give anything for? And obviously, for Nicholas, he'd give up his kingdom, he'd give up anything to convince Rose that she's worthy of love. But it also kind of follows the king's story, and it follows that, and it completes some of the other stories throughout the series and that. So it was really, really amazing to write, to be honest. It was hard, but it was really amazing to write.
It sounds amazing, especially being the third. Is this the last one in the series?
This
then?
is,
the third? Okay.
Sadly.
So I know it sounds wonderful, and I love all of the different like ways, like the different kind of, I guess you could say tropes, but the different ways and the connections between the characters that you did throughout the series. I think it's so interesting. The struggles that they are going through, that they're dealing with. I love Nicholas already.
He's great.
Especially he's like reading, he's like, why are you guys fighting? My goodness. He's telling his brother he's an idiot,
Pretty much, yeah. In a medieval way, but basically.
Yeah, in a medieval way, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh.
But he's great. He wasn't really as bookish at the start, but we kind of already had two pretty strong knights to be with the other two sisters. So it's three sisters. But we're like, no, Rose needs someone a bit quieter who isn't going to be always out there, but is going to be there for her and can prove that he's there for her. And like he quotes ballads and things, which is really cute.
Aww.
And I had so much fun because I got to write the ballads for them. There's like the Ballad of the Pearl, and there's like different prayers and different rhymes and things and ballads he quotes through it, which was really fun. So I enjoyed doing that.
I bet it sounds absolutely like just wonderful. I bet, especially I love whenever books have letters in
Hmm.
it. And
Yeah, me
now,
too.
especially like even like the little text messages now, like in some of the contemporary books,
Hmm.
like they'll add in little things, which is similar to the letters,
Yeah,
because obviously like it's fitting for the time period. I think it's so fun because it gives you a little glimpse into that time. It kind of puts you right back there
it
and
does.
it
Yeah.
just breaks it up a little bit. Yeah, it's
Yep.
fun. And I can imagine as the writer, it's probably really fun to write those too.
It is. I love writing the letters and stuff, especially in the second one because they kind of have banter back and forward because he knows who she is, but she doesn't know who he is. Um, so to have that kind of like he's egging her on at different points, and it was a lot of fun. You can almost, with the second book, you can almost just read the letters and follow the story through that, which was
Oh, that's cool.
totally makes me laugh. Even though they're just kind of at the start of each series, each chapter. But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun to do that. And yeah, to then write ballads and poems and things for the second book. Sorry, for Hold Her Close was, yeah, so much fun.
That's awesome. That is amazing. And it's funny because when you said endometriosis, even though you don't like name it, right? Because it still existed, right? Women had,
Yeah,
that's the first thing I thought of. I love that you like highlighted that. That's the first thing I thought of with the royal thing is like, she's probably not going to be able to have kids. And that's going to be an issue because that's not always the case. Sometimes
yeah,
women still can have babies, but that's
but it's harder.
usually it's harder,
Yeah,
exactly, and especially back then, they wouldn't know, they just know that
no.
she's, like, having an issue.
And they wouldn't have ways, they wouldn't have known exactly what was going on or how to treat it
Right.
so much back then either. Like there's a lot more treatments and things now, and like your ultrasounds, and you know what's going on. Whereas back then it was kind of
Yes.
like, well, maybe she's dying. Like it's, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's very different back then. So yeah.
Very different, especially with the bleeding, I mean,
Mm,
she could've
yeah.
maybe died depending on how bad the bleeding is, but yeah, like you said, ultrasound, that's the first thing I thought of too, I'm like, "They don't have imaging, they don't
I know,
know, they're not gonna,
right?
like," it's a shame.
Medical world.
Um I know. But that's cool. I love it. It sounds like an amazing story. Why don't you we're almost at time. So Hannah, just touching on the how you linked a parable to each one of these books, is there a particular Bible verse that has really kind of guided you in your journey, just in your writing journey, or even has guided you in just preparing this series?
So many, obviously. um,
Many,
so
many Bible verses.
like Rose, I have always had a pretty strong faith in that. So a lot of the Bible verses have come into that. But um, there's one I picked just because I'm like, I gotta pick one. And it would be Psalm 48:14. It says, "This God is our God forever and ever. He will be our guide to the end." And I love that because I'm like this God who's done, like, who brought the Israelites through, who protected Gideon, who fought with David, like this God who's done all these things. This is our God. Like, this is the same God who did all that can do this, and he will be our guide. And I know, I just love that. I love the idea that he's with me as I write. He's with me as I kind of do all the marketing that I'm maybe not so good at. But he's with me through that. And if he can do all this stuff for the people in Bible times, if he can do all these miracles for all these other authors that I know and people around the world, then he's with me as well. Like, he's not changing. So this God is our God. So I love that. So yeah, Psalm 48:14 would be
Oh,
the one
that's
I'd pick.
beautiful. And you know what? And what better encouragement is there to know that he's with you in everything that you're doing? Not
Oh,
just,
absolutely. Yeah.
he's not leaving you, he's not forsaking you. He sees you in your quiet places. He is there with you always. I love that verse so much. And it totally fits. I can totally see you carrying that with you because, you have just this heart for God so much and you just want to do so well and reach people. And that's just beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. So why don't you let our listeners and, readers know where they can find you and they can get this wonderful series?
So I have a website, hannahcurrie.com. It's just my name, so Currie, which has a lot of the places listed on it. Other than that, my publisher is a great place to get it, whitecrownpublishing.com. They're all pretty much just how they say it. There's no fancy wording in there or anything. But yeah, so if you head to either of those, that's the easiest place to get it. And I have a lot of other sites and stuff linked on that as well.
Perfect. And I will definitely put the link to your website in the show notes as well as the book link too. I can put the link to the
Yep.
publisher as well. And yeah, Absolutely. Thank you so much, Hannah. This has been just a delight talking with you. I cannot wait to start reading the Hold Her Close. It sounds amazing. I'm gonna actually have to start the series. See, now my TBR list just got 3 more books longer. But thank you so much. And thank you for the
All right.
ministry that you do. And, even though if it's kicking and screaming with God,
Okay, most of the
um,
time it's good.
I know. I'm just playing with you.
Yeah.
But I love that he has called you into this. I feel like you are fish in water with this, that you have these beautiful stories that are reaching people in ways, like you said, that you just may not have been able to do just on your own. So I love that you are listening to this call and you are out there writing these beautiful stories. And I just cannot wait to start reading them. And just thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you. It's been lovely.
If you enjoyed today's show, be sure to hit subscribe and tap the bell to get notified of new episodes. We love blessing our listeners with exclusive interviews and, of course, amazing books. Each month, we host a themed book giveaway where you can win a selection of Christian romance novels and a few extra goodies, too. This month's theme is Timeless Love. We're giving away 7 powerful Christian historical romances by best-selling and award-winning authors. From courageous women and sweeping adventures to heartfelt journeys of grief, redemption, and enduring faith, these stories will inspire and uplift you. Whether you're listening as the episode drops or catching up later, no worries. You'll always find the link to the most current giveaway on our website, ChristianRomancePodcast.com. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, keep your faith, share the love, and happy reading.